Catastrophe update. I'm alive. Hopefully, I am in. This wheel was on there, and part of it is still in there.
How's it going, guys? My name is Vishwas, and in today's episode of Building a Pulsar 150 Cafe Racer, we are going to get this frame all welded up. Well, hopefully completely welded up. Fingers crossed, alright? As you guys saw in the last episode, we got this frame all ready to get welded. We got all the fabrication pieces which need to be, well, specially fabricated, all completely fabricated. But they're not quite there yet. We have a little few preparations which we have to do in order to get them all ready to be welded. So that's what we are going to start with, and hopefully by the end of this episode we are going to have something which more or less resembles a bike. A rolling one, that is.
So the next thing we are going to do is get the tank mount sorted. This tank mount is really perfect for the tank we have, and that's what we will be going to salvage from this piece, along with the seat lock mechanism and this crossbar piece and this CDI mount. What we'll be doing is cutting this off from this frame, flipping it around and welding it onto the other frame so that the CDI mounts in the same spot and the tank mount gets sort of sorted. Catastrophe update. I'm alive. Hopefully, I am in. This wheel was on there, and part of it is still in there. So what happened was, when I was actually cutting this, I don't know if it's a defective wheel or something like that. These are very inexpensive wheels, so I just randomly decided to grenade itself and explode it into million pieces.
This is why you should always keep safety as a top priority. I have my protective goggles, I have my mask just to save myself from inhaling all the metal dust. And shit like this can still happen no matter how safe you are. So before working with tools like this, you should really know the basics of how to use them safely and not get killed in the process.
So we just got the tank mount off. It's still hot. Again, this is where the cutting wheel exploded. This one, the machine was jumping. Next step, trying to get this cleaned and mounted onto the tank so we can see where the tank lands and do stuff with it.
So, as you can see, here we are. The tank mount is well mounted to the tank. The front tank mounts are in place. I just bought these furniture foot pegs from the hardware store and ground them down and passed the bolt to them on both sides, and well, DIY. So we are back working on the bike. I don't know where I left off at the last clip. It has been a long while before I've been working on this bike. So let me just give you an update of what's actually happened. As you know, we got the frame cut off. Again, we fabricated this piece for the shock absorber mount. This got welded in the last episode. Apart from that, we ground these off. We still have to grind this down because the piece is not actually fitting well. Now if you guys remember, this is a piece which actually came off of the bike. That's why you already see that it's all welded up and ready to go. Now the original plan was to actually build so the original plan actually was to build a custom frame, but since the time frame doesn't work out that well and it's going to be really expensive, I just tried doing something with this and it actually fit up quite well. I just had to cut off the 4 inches from here and about 4 inches from here, and this thing fits up like I actually wanted the frame to fit up. Let me show you. So this is where you can see the frame actually got cut off from. This is actually how it originally was. This is where the fuel tank originally mounted, and there was approximately 6 inches of piping left, which used to connect it from here to here. What we did was, since we chopped it off from here, we put it on an angle because I didn't want it to be here. I wanted it to be here instead. And this, wait a minute. This is how it fits. Pretty fly if I say so myself. Again, we'll have to get this welded. We need to get these stubs cut off. And let me show you what I had to do in order to make this fit on this existing bike. So when we actually cut off the frame, these ends were straight and they did not have an angle on them, and since we are putting tubes onto tubes, curved surface onto curved surfaces, we actually had to do some creative cutting over here, and that is what these are. These are the reliefs which allow tubes to weld onto tubes on an angle. So that's where we are. Already got this done. It was an absolute pain in the ass. It took a very long time, and that's why I chose not to film it, and that is why we are here. We have a fair bit of work actually remaining. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but there are 4 points where this frame actually has to line up, and out of the 4, there are 2 good ones and 2 questionable ones. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but the one on the right is okay, fairly decent, but the one on the left, at the bottom one there, you can see, I don't know, I'll try pointing here. That's where the nasty gap is, and that's where actually the old plates for the battery used to go. And again, on the top 2, this one, again, the one on the right is fairly decent, but as you can see, the one on the left is actually fairly off, and that is what we are going to be working here, because these things from the factory come way out of whack. The center line does not match the center line back here. There are pieces out of alignment here. So this is what we are going to be working today. We are going to try to get this left tube aligned back to the chassis and coped up. So how we are going to be doing this off is, in order to bring this entire bend, as you can see, this has more of aggressive bend, and this is slightly less bent from the factory, and that is why this thing is almost 1/4 of an inch little towards the left than it's supposed to be. That's why what we are going to do is we are going to cut a slit here, not all the way through the tube, and try to bend it back a 1/4 inch. We'll see if we need to do just 1 cut or 2 cuts if we have to do it, and then when the frame is actually getting welded up, we'll just weld those 2 as well, and no one will know because this part is actually going under the seat and the tank. So let's get to it.
So this is where we are right now. As you can see now, this bend fits in pretty decently. When you can see, we cut a slit in here, and with a little persuasion from a hammer, we got this to come fairly inwards and actually line up quite decently. As you can see, I have just made those marks with a hacksaw blade where these actually have to line up. So now you can see we have to remove these stubs. So that's why we just removed this piece, and that piece, I'm pretty proud of that piece, and I'll show it to you later. But for now, we are going to get rid of these pieces and get ready for weld up. So after all the cutting and grinding, as you can see, we cut off these stubs, we have ground them down completely, and they are just safe to touch, not sharp. We ground this down perfectly, and this thing came out rather nice, if I say so myself. And it fits up like a glove. Obviously, no, not like a glove, but still it fits up pretty decent. The gaps are pretty much there, but they're even all around. Bigger than I'd like, but only so much I can do. So now that we have this part all prepped up, there's one part which I did not get on camera and I'd like to show you. This is one of the parts which I did not get on camera because this was one of the first parts which I actually made, and this is the second try, and I actually got it pretty much perfect to where I want it to be, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So as you can see, this thing does not fit up quite well in from any angle, but that's what we want. We want an interference fit. Now what an interference fit is, for the people who don't know, is where the parts actually hold themselves together and do not need, in a state of, they can hold themselves together, and this is one of those parts. So as you can see, even without any welding, without doing much, this part is pretty much not going anywhere, and if you wanted, you can actually lift the entire bike from here, but I wouldn't recommend that. But this is what I'm talking about, and if you don't know what this part is, this is where the shock absorber mount actually lands and welds up. Ignore these welds, these are my first welds, so I wouldn't be proud of it, but we are only here for progress. So this is where the shock absorber mounts up top. This is how the shock absorber sits, and this is how the entire frame should look like once it's all welded and holds its place. So in order to get all the pieces ready to be welded, they need to be pristinely clean. As you can see on the surface of this thing, there's a lot of remaining paint, old paint which was actually on the bike. There's a lot of rust from the exposed metals which I actually ground down a long time back, but again it's starting to rust away. Surface rust, we need to grind that down, and the same goes for all these things. We need to knock the rust out of this thing, grind it, make it completely smooth and shiny, and then that to weld. And then coming to in order to get all this paint off and the surface ready to be welded on, we are going to need one special tool, and that special tool is this. This, if you don't know, is a wire brush. It's has hard steel wire brushes, which again go onto your trusty angle grinder, and then you just whiz away all the paint, all the surface rust, and it leaves a pretty good finish, which is very, very ideal to be welded on. So that is what we are going to do next. So as you can see, this is where we are at right now, and this is what I meant by getting the surface ready for welding. As you can see, the areas which are supposed to be welded are nice and shiny and roughed up for proper electrode contact. And now hopefully the only step remaining is to weld it. So we'll see how that goes. There we have it, folks. The frame of the bike is finally welded and in one piece, and that is not going anywhere. No, we did get the bike welded, but it is not completely welded up. There's a few more things which we have to button up, fabricate, and make before the bike can be considered finished and all welded up. Now, those projects being the tail flap, the tank mount, the front headlight mount, and all the stuff like that. But that we will be saving that for round 2 of welding, where once all the fabrication is done, we will get all those projects welded up and in place. Finally. In the next episode, we will be working on the front end of the bike, getting the mudguard sorted, the headlight situation situated, the handlebars, and all the fun, not so fun fab projects, but which have to be done in order to get the perfect look that we want from this bike. That is where we are going to call it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If this is the sort of stuff you like watching, please do drop a like and let me know in the comment section below. And I'll see you on the next one.
Come on.
We got this to come up fairly inward. Pretty fly if I talk to myself, which I am right now. And weld joints are very weak when it comes to rusting because it's hot metal again. Science.